So Bethesda has just had what seems like their entire 2026 plans revealed, some by choice, others not. From Nintendo Switch ports that I know people are already memeing, to leaks for the upcoming Starfield PlayStation 5 release. Xbox has a busy year ahead of them. We're going to be diving into all of that, but first, let's just start with the Nintendo Direct itself. So Nintendo yesterday had a Direct Partner Showcase. There's a lot of great games that were there, titles that honestly, when I see them, they shock me that they're making their way to the Switch too, like Resident Evil Biohazard, Village, Requiem especially, which was visually amazing, especially for a handheld, specifically the Switch, where you don't really expect that level of quality, to be honest. All releasing on February 27th, or seeing Turok. It's just impressive to see all of these games, in my opinion, and I love, in general, more games going to more places. I think exclusivity is a dying practice, and it should be. I've never been one for any of this console warring nonsense, but out of all of the reveals that they had and all the exciting announcements, Bethesda themselves and Todd Howard was the one who had the honor to close out the show, and it got a bit of a heated reaction, a lot of it to Todd directly. Enough at least to the point where folks like Kiwi Talks, who he's an incredible channel, he stepped out and asked why people were having such a problem with Todd, and he states the developer interviews he's done, which are really good, every developer speaks highly of Todd. And to answer your question that you might be saying, no, they have zero obligation to be positive. Several of them are retiring or are semi-retired and working on personal projects. And you can say, well, they're just trying not to burn any bridges. Reality is, we've seen as Todd has gotten less and less involved in the projects at Bethesda Game Studios, the more the projects seem to suffer. As Todd is getting burdened down with the Fallout TV show, the remasters that are happening, with Indiana Jones, of course, with Starfield, its DLC, Elder Scrolls 6, and he's one person getting stretched this thin.
Even then, I mean, he was spread pretty thin. You know, I think even once we kind of came out of Fallout 4, you could tell that it was like, it's a lot. It's a lot for one person to have to do that stuff.
Oh, sure. There's a direct correlation between the presence of Todd decreasing on each project and the quality of the games that people are seeing get worse. I'm not sure if it's just cognitive dissonance or if people just choose to ignore that, but that's the reality of it. Todd really is a benefit to the studio. The real issues that people have are with the studio, or should be with the studio itself, but because Todd is the face of the company, he gets the brunt of the criticism. Unfortunately, a lot of it not really deserved. So during this event, Bethesda announced a multitude of games coming to the Switch 2, including Fallout 4 Anniversary, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Oblivion Remastered. And so people that see this closing out the show, especially because it closed out the show, it was a bit of a reminder for a lot of them about the problems that they have, which is Bethesda just reselling their games over and over. And I am all for ports. Bringing more games to be more accessible in more places is awesome. This is releasing at the full $60 price point for a 10-year-old game, let alone a version that people were not happy with for various reasons, especially when, and I know this is the sale price, but you can get the Game of the Year edition. It just doesn't come with the 150 creations, many of which are just reskins for things like the Pip-Boy or the Power Armor, or just different breeds of dog that you can have in the game. You can find it for $10 on Steam. And if you were thinking, well, maybe I'll just dip a toe into Fallout 4, I'll finally give it a try, $5 if you want to buy it without the DLC. We know that Nintendo is notorious for not really putting anything on sale, and that is the only option of the game that's available on Switch 2. You can go to the site right now and click and search for Fallout. You have Fallout Shelter, you have the Anniversary Edition at $60. That's it. So if you want to play at Switch, where admittedly you are going to be getting worse visuals, you can see really muddy textures in some of the gameplay, you have no access to mods, you can see that this is also the price of it, the base price when it's not on sale on Steam is $60, and all the people who like to call me a shill can quote me right here. This is absolutely insane, and quite frankly, I have thought from the get-go, even Skyrim Anniversary Edition released at the same price, and I thought it was egregious back then as well. Then you look at other things too, like the Fallout New Vegas Collector's Edition releasing for $150, which is a 15-year-old game, and it's just reiterating that the things that people have, these negative connotations, you're not doing any favor for the PR of Bethesda. Now, I don't see many people complaining about Indiana Jones or Oblivion Remastered. That's to be expected. Both of these titles, they're newer. Honestly, the brief look that we did get, they look good on the Switch too, so not as big of an issue. I did think it was curious that Doom the Dark Ages was not going to be making an appearance on the Switch, but I do wonder if that's because Dark Ages did have lower sales numbers. Majority of the players were doing so through Game Pass. But it just sucks to see. It's like every single time that Bethesda has an opportunity, they could come out and say, hey, we're doing this. It's $40. It's $30 to get this version of the game. We just want more people to play it. They always seem to find a way to take a couple steps backwards, and it's why people get so upset with them. Now here's where things get really interesting, which is when we break down the timeline for Bethesda coming this year, because it's absolutely incredible. Xbox itself has a massive loaded year. They have Fable, they have Forza, they have smaller projects like Replace that are coming out, Gears of War E-Day, amongst others that just don't have release dates but are slated for some time in 2026. Bethesda themselves, in addition to all these ports that are going to be making their way to the Nintendo Switch throughout the year, leading all the way into roughly the fall. We also have a report from Tom Warren where supposedly we are going to get Fallout 3 remastered sometime in 2026. They're just trying to make sure that it is as polished as the Oblivion remaster, which I would hope that it's a little bit more polished than the Oblivion remaster, just because there were some issues that I think people still are having with it as far as performance goes. But additionally, on top of that, we recently received a new leak that shows Starfield is going to be releasing its PlayStation 5 port sometime in April. And of course, as it's been rumored for a very long time now, that PlayStation 5 port is also going to come with the Terran Armada DLC for Starfield. It's also going to come with the 2.0 update, as we've been calling it, which I talked about in my last video a bit, but bringing a lot of overhauls to Starfield, to the space travel. Probably will have interplanetary travel without loading screens, minimizing those as much as they possibly can. Some new systems that they said they're integrating. Again, talked about it last time. I don't think it's going to transform the game for people who don't like it, but for those that enjoy it, it's going to be a big update. And that's also happening sometime in 2026. So a lot to cram in, which is interesting because the current statement from Craig Duncan, who's the head of Xbox Games, he stated that he wanted to give titles more breathing room, specifically, quote, I think ideally we want to space things out and make sure games have their own, as we like to call it, oxygen in those moments. Our own release schedule is one thing, but then you have everyone else's release schedule at the same time. There are very few windows and there's more and more games and more competition for a player's time. There's also movies, music, and all this other stuff that gets packed in. So the learning was, let's not put stuff on top of our stuff, and I think we have done that. He's referring to last year, their strategy was to sort of release a lot of things at once to keep engagement and excitement for Xbox up. Ultimately, even though they were very different projects for one another, he states that you're still competing for ultimately money and also time. In Xbox case, you could play it through Game Pass, but obviously you can't assume that every single person is subscribed. So he wants to space out all these games. Bethesda themselves has a loaded 2026. Xbox first party has a loaded 2026. Then you also have massive juggernauts such as Grand Theft Auto, which we know a lot of titles are moving out of the way for because it's Grand Theft Auto. I will say, I think I'm one of the only people that's not really that excited for it. Please don't put me to the stake for that. Just me. Especially with the remaster releasing this year, you can see the amount of excitement behind Fallout. Todd Howard remarked on it. There was tons of people that were getting incredibly excited for the Fallout remaster with the Amazon TV show and that it might coincide with the finale. So Bethesda wants to make sure they're probably getting that out the door as fast as possible. I'm curious if that will in many ways overshadow Starfield, depending on how close they decide to put them to one another, because we saw with Shattered Space that Bethesda released that in September, then 7 months later we got the Oblivion remaster. If Bethesda tried to do the same thing with Terran Armada releasing sometime in April, 7 months later you're sticking it right in November underneath the boot of Grand Theft Auto. So again, lots to navigate, lots to shift around, lots to not overlay their own stuff with one another. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, but Microsoft, Xbox, they have a great 2026 lineup coming ahead. The only hope then is that in 2027 we will see the Elder Scrolls 6, so that we don't have a year of who knows what coming from Bethesda where it's just a complete dry year for them. I don't think they would let that happen, but we'll have to wait and see, especially if they're trying to get everything out this year. Anyway, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing what you guys all have to say. Agree, disagree. If you watched this far, please consider subscribing. And thank you. That's one of the best things you could do for a channel, is watching to the end. That watch time is crazy important these days. So thank you guys so much. As always, I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.